AI has changed the world of analytics and data science. Will data analysts be replaced by AI? Will AI replace data analysts? How will Copilot change the data analyst life? If you're wanting to be a data analyst, or you already are one, seeing these headlines might concern you a bit. However, most of these articles come to a pretty similar conclusion, that AI won't necessarily replace data analysts, but AI will change the way that data analysts work. So really, the question then becomes, what does that look like in practice? In today's video, I wanted to go over how AI can be used in the different stages of a data analyst project, and one bonus use case for AI. And stay tuned till the end of the video for things to look out for when using AI in your work. As a reference, here's an image of the general stages of a data analysis project. Let's start with data gathering, shall we? One of the main use cases of AI in data analysis that you've probably heard of is code generation. More specifically, SQL code generation. Now let's travel back in time to the olden days of 2022. Back then, let's say we had a data set containing sales information for a coffee shop. And let's say we got a request to find the months where each week in the month had an increasing trend of sales. Now, back in the olden days, to address this request, we would have to write a SQL query. And we would have to write that SQL query from scratch, which means we would have to think through all the logic, things like what joins to use, if we need to use window functions, how to group the data. But now, this is where tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude can come in. ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or any of these AI tools can generate sample SQL code for us and give us options on how to approach this problem. Now, I will mention that these AI tools aren't always the most accurate in their code generation. Sometimes the code has errors or it's not the most efficient code to use. However, it gets you to a starting point for your SQL query much faster than you could before when you were writing the SQL query completely from scratch. And one bonus use case for SQL is that you can use a tool like ChatGPT to convert one flavor of SQL into another flavor of SQL. For example, if you have a SQL Server query that you want to translate to a MySQL query, you can just give the SQL Server query to ChatGPT and it will return to you the equivalent syntax in MySQL. And this will save you a ton of time in Googling the equivalent syntax between these two different flavors of SQL. AI is also helpful in the exploratory data analysis or EDA stage of a data analysis project. Personally, in the pre-ChatGPT days, one of my least favorite parts of EDA was writing the code that would create the visualizations. I mean, it would take so much time to adjust the x-axis just how I wanted it and the legend to get it just how I wanted it. But now with ChatGPT, an analyst can just prompt it to give it the code for the basic visualization that it wants, like a line chart or a bar chart. And then from there, you can iterate with ChatGPT to get the x-axis exactly how you want, or to get the legend how you want, and you pretty quickly have the code you need for the visualization that you need. I mean, with how much easier AI makes this task, I could cry thinking about all the time I spent in Altair making and adjusting charts. During the data gathering or EDA stage of a project, you will almost certainly run into at least one SQL or Python error. The old-fashioned way to deal with this was Googling the error message and sifting through Stack Overflow post after Stack Overflow post until you finally found one that fixed your problem. However, now with ChatGPT, you can just give it your error message and it will identify what the error is and give you options for how to fix it. Not only that, it will also explain what is causing the error so that you know how to avoid that same error in the future. I will say that debugging code with ChatGPT is a bit hit or miss. Sometimes if you have a really niche error or one that's not that common, you do have to go back to old reliable, Stack Overflow. However, there are times that ChatGPT is very helpful in debugging code, so it's definitely worth a shot to give it your error message and see what it comes up with. Now, AI is not just helpful for the technical tasks in a data analysis project, but it's helpful for the non-technical tasks as well, like asking business questions about the data or presenting the data insights to stakeholders. At the very start of a data analysis problem, you will have to come up with questions you want to answer about the dataset or hypotheses that you have about the dataset. One way AI can help you here is by describing the dataset. Now, let's say you have a dataset with a lot of columns. You can give that dataset to ChatGPT and it'll explain and describe what each of those columns contains. Now, when you're actually coming up with the business questions and hypotheses, if you have some base business questions or base hypotheses, ChatGPT can really help you flesh out those questions and give you kind of sub-questions for each broader question that you have, and it can help guide your analysis a bit. Then, after you've completed your analysis and you know what the storyline is and you're ready to present to stakeholders, ChatGPT can help you in creating the first draft of your presentation. If you give it the dataset that you're using, the storyline that you've generated, what you want on each slide, and a description of the theme that you want for your slides, ChatGPT or a similar AI tool can help you create the first draft of that presentation. You will have to edit it from there, but it will at least save you time getting your initial thoughts formatted onto your slides. Finally, AI can also help you prepare for your presentation. If you're anything like me, one of the scariest parts of a data presentation isn't the actual presentation itself, but it's the questions that come after. And it's scary because it's unpredictable. You don't know what question a stakeholder is going to ask you. But this is where ChatGPT can help. You can ask ChatGPT to act like a stakeholder. You can give it your presentation and you can ask it to come up with questions a specific stakeholder might have. Of course, sometimes the stakeholders won't ask the questions that ChatGPT asks, but this is a good exercise in thinking more deeply about your analysis or thinking about it from different angles. Now for the bonus use case of AI. Outside of the actual data analysis cycle, I also like to use AI to help me learn. Do you ever read a data science article or a research paper and think to yourself, I don't understand what I'm reading? Because same. Sometimes I'll read a blog post on Towards Data Science or in the Anthropic blogs or the OpenAI blogs, and I realize I need some help understanding some of the concepts mentioned in those articles. So I will have ChatGPT explain that concept to me in more simple terms. Being a data analyst, or really being in any technical role, requires you to be a lifelong learner. And that becomes a lot easier when you can have AI act as your own personal tutor for any subject. Before I wrap up this video, I do want to mention some things to look out for when using AI in your work. It can definitely help you work faster and more efficiently. However, there are also downsides and just some things to keep in mind when using AI. First, don't blindly trust the outputs. AI tools like ChatGPT can be wrong. In fact, ChatGPT even gives you a warning about this in the interface. So you always have to check the outputs. For example, when it generates SQL code or Python code for you, before you use that code, you do have to look through it and make sure it's doing what you asked it to do, and it's doing it correctly and in an efficient way. And to do this, you do need to know how to write the SQL and Python code yourself without AI. Second, protect your data. You have to be careful about the data that you feed into these AI tools, because depending on which AI tool you use or which version of it you use, these tools might be using the prompts and the data or the files or any information that you feed into it to train the models it uses to generate the answers to your questions. So unless you are absolutely certainly sure that that isn't happening, don't feed in sensitive information to these AI tools. Third, beware of over-reliance on AI. I know, this one is a little bit annoying, But look, I don't want to lose the skill of being able to write a presentation from start to finish on my own, or being able to brainstorm ideas and hypotheses for how to approach a data analysis project on my own. Even in this video, you'll notice I mentioned using AI to help you brainstorm business questions in addition to questions and hypotheses you have already come up with. I also mentioned using it to help you create the first draft of your presentation for a storyline that you have already come up with. Now, I don't want to be like that math teacher who never let you use a calculator on your math test, because what if you don't have a calculator in the real world? Because the thing is, you probably will have access to an AI tool most of the time. But personally, for tasks like creating presentations or brainstorming questions, I try to use it more in a supportive role rather than doing that task entirely for me, just so I don't lose those skills or those skills don't atrophy. So those are the ways that, at least I know of, that AI can be used in a data analysis project. Are there any use cases I missed? Are there any ways that you use AI in your data analysis that I didn't mention? I would love to know, so you can let me know in the comments below. If you're interested in more videos on AI, I do have a couple of videos on AI skills and AI agents, so check those out if you're interested. And as always, thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.